Now, I may have teased it in yesterday's developer blog video, but here it is. Today's video is all about some leaked screenshots and some concept art for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. Now, this was leaked, so this isn't technically released by Tailwords. Tercio Vijero, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, posted this on the Tailwords forums, and there's a lot to get through. But before I get into this, just a disclaimer. This is all concept art, meaning that none of this is confirmed for the actual game. Just ideas have been put forward by Tailwords and their artists for early stages of development, but I won't be able to go through every single detail, as you might be able to tell, there's quite a lot to get through. So there'll be a link in the description to, the Tailwords post with the full concept art, so all credit going to those guys that actually found this. I'm just trying to translate it in a quick video type content to you guys. But thank you for watching, and let's get straight into it. First off, let's talk a bit about map design. Here in the concept art, we can see some pretty sizable maps. I mean, we've always wondered how big the maps are going to be in Bannerlord, and hoping that they're going to push that warband limit from 150 people in the single player at least, up to further and north of 500, maybe even up to 1,000, hopefully getting up to that, and you'll have to have maps in order to accommodate for that. Now, I'm assuming that the far reach of these maps will be accessible because there's markers on the plans, so you can see hills or dense forestation in these markers, and there's a lot of options here now for attacking and flanking bases rather than just going straight at them from face forward. We can see this shows a forest bandit camp and everything that comes with it, and each bandit camp is sort of catered, and you can tell what bandit camp it is according to what props and things and where it is located and all the interesting things, and have they enhanced bandit camps for the better. Now, I am assuming this is for a single player map, as in the bottom corner you can see a marker that says player party, indicating towards the single player aspect of the game, and also it does say this is a forest bandit camp. The markers, if you look closely, say things like bunkers and tree walks, so we can see close-ups of these as well, showing options for tree-based combat, maybe hiding in the trees, or these bandits will be in different places that you're going to have to watch out for, not just on the ground, but also up in the rafters of the trees, and also hiding underground in these tunnels, in these bunkers. So battling and pushing through in order to take these bandit camps is going to be tricky, a lot trickier than Warband, but it's going to be something that you have to do, whether you go straight into the tunnels or find a way of drawing them out. Next, we can see, and it shows a mountain bandit camp hideout. And my god, I think out of all of them, this looks the most amazing. Look at the chasms with the rope bridges. I can just imagine a lot of people falling down there. I hope there's multiplayer maps with this sort of stuff. I think there is one in Warband with the rope bridges type thing and a lot of chasms. And I think there'll be a lot of fun if we get these in Bannerlord in the multiplayer. But going back to the single player, we can see rope bridges crossing the caverns. Watch out, make sure you don't fall down there, but also cave systems as well. These mountain bandits have dug and tunneled into the mountains in order to store things, to hide out, to use as traps, even for prisoners. So in order to take these camps, you're going to have to raid and get into these cave systems, not just overground, but underground as well, in order to take them. Finally, we can see some Sea Raiders. Yes, Sea Raiders are back in Bannerlord. Of course, concept art, so not 100% confirmed, but once again has cave systems, and it looks pretty difficult to take. Sea Raiders camps has always been a bit tricky, since even if you have a lot of skirmishes, they have pretty big shields to block them, and Sea Raiders are pretty deadly up close when it comes to fighting against some of your weaker troops. And there's another hideout called Swampers. Swamp bandits? Interesting. And of course, Desert Raider hideouts, which we can expect. But each of these hideouts are unique to each of the bandits, and you'll find these throughout the map of Karadia. If you're in the mountains, of course, you'll find a mountain bandit hideout, and vice versa. If you're in the Azurai type area, you're probably going to find these Desert Raider hideouts. Now, we're going to move on quickly here and looking into the castles and cities, and here we can actually see a lot. There's docks in the cities, as I predicted. Some of the gameplay trailers we've seen like ship masts and docks, as I've shown in quite a few of them. But now we have official confirmation that there probably will be these docks in the game, that traders will be coming in and out, people will be taking stuff out, everyone will be living their lives. Whether we'll be able to use these docks when we're just walking around and go and get on a ship and go sail around, who knows? There's like islands here that are marked, so maybe you'll be able to go to these. But saying that, there has been, and I'll get into a bit longer, some doubts about whether we'll get ships, at least playable ships that the players can use in the very first stages of the game. Maybe that will come a little bit later. But even more, you can see the rest of the castles, the keep in the middle surrounded by the cities, farms and things where people can go and get their food and resources or take it in, because you're not really the only one playing this. The whole world of Calradia is alive and all the NPCs will be doing their own thing, and this is stated and accommodated for in the concept art for the cities. They have thought very well and hard about where everyone will be and what everyone will need to make it look immersive and get you into the world. But we get to see the castle layouts for all the factions, and like the bandit camps, each faction has their own unique castle layouts, and you'll be able to tell what each faction is by just walking into the cities themselves, whether it's the Empire with more Roman based and influenced type castles and keeps and things like that. As you can see here, we have a very Circus Maximus type looking thing, which looks absolutely awesome. Chariot racing tailwheels? Chariot racing? If there were chariot racing or some sort of jousting in this. A game of the century? Game of the world? Maybe? Yes? But once again, we can see the fields on the outside and small little encampment villages on top of hills as well. But then the bigger city with the gates, the keeps, and of course the final lord's chambers and the castle walls. I think the battalions look pretty awesome with the stone starting and then coming up into the wooden palisades and the brick wall type things. I think that's probably my favourite, but I think the Empire one looks pretty cool as well. And saying that, to be fair, the Verlandians are pretty awesome, although they're a bit more generic, sort of medieval castle type looking. But let's move on to props and animal. And look, there's ships. I told you there's ships. Surely there's no way there isn't going to be naval warfare in this game, as it's been hinted at so many points throughout the gameplay, but I'm not going to mislead you. They have said, and previously said, a long time ago, that there won't be usable ships in the game, at least not at release, which is what they said. So there's definitely ships in the game, but whether you can use them, we don't know yet. Maybe it'll be implemented later on as DLC. DLC. I don't want to say that. DLC. Oh, why? Please don't let it be DLC. Just have an update. Just have an update. Towers don't seem like the type of company that would put this extra big, massive thing as DLC, but who knows what the gaming industry is up to these days. But yeah, there'll definitely be ships in the game. We have concept art, we've even seen ships and things and docks. Whether we'll be able to actually use them, I doubt it to start with, but eventually I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that naval combat could be considered in it. So I'm fingers crossed for that. If you guys want naval combat, make sure you leave a comment down below. If anyone at Tales is watching this, which I know some of you do, give us naval combat now, please. And the armor looks goddamn awesome. Now I think this is where some of the history buffs are going to get a bit angry and be like, what is this armor? This does not look very historically accurate. No, a lot of it doesn't, but a lot of it is inspired by historical armors, and I still think it looks goddamn awesome. I mean, with a bit of historical accuracy, this isn't supposed to be a historically accurate game. Yes, it's taking a lot of influence from history, but at the end of the day, Calradia is a made-up place. These factions are inspired by real factions, but they are made-up factions, fantasy factions. They do not exist. So there should be allowed to be a lot of leeway, or at least a bit of leeway and artistic license with creating the armors. Maybe a bit less the weapons, but definitely the armors. You see some weird knobbly bits and spikes, and anyone that knows me knows I love a good knobbly bit here and there. But yeah, awesome armor and helmet idea designs. Of course, still just concept art, so if you don't like this sort of stuff, this is not confirmed to be in the game, but if you do like this sort of stuff, it's still not confirmed to be in the game. I was gonna say it still could be in the game, which it could be, but it's the same sort of comparison either side. Anyway, let's go into some of the animal. And I know it is a bit of a meme that I made a whole dev blog on camels, but let's be honest, the camels dev blog has probably been one of the more fuller dev blogs in the last few months with newer things. I'm gonna make the dev blog anyway. It's like a 5-minute video. It doesn't really matter. But here we have more random. Camels, of course, which we already know are confirmed to be in the game, but we can see some more concept art. Mules, maybe we're going to be able to actually carry things on here. We can see like carry cases and bags on the back of these camels and mules. Hopefully we're going to be able to use these. If you have more in your faction, in your party, does this mean you'll be able to have more inventory space to carry more? Who knows at the moment. A sort of bison type thing. Maybe they'll be patrolling the landscape. Maybe you'll be able to round them up, kill them. Donkeys, goats, little puppers, little cows that have plows and stuff. Now, the cows and the little pupper doggies and the goats and the donkeys and things, I'm assuming they're not just going to be things out in the wild. Maybe some will be. Maybe it'll be like in Warband where you have to round up some cows. Maybe. I'm assuming these are going going to be more assets and props when you go and walk around the towns. You can see like a cow over there, a dog eating a goat over there, and a donkey suckling on a small child over there. But nonetheless, they're going to be things that are probably going to be walking around in the towns that you're going to be able to witness. Maybe stab them. Why was that the first thing that came to mind? Let's not lie. That's the first thing that pretty much came to everyone's mind. But once again, small statues and small props that will be around the buildings, and of course the cities. You can see some very Greek style ones here. Probably going to be in the Empire, as you know, Rome took a lot of influence from Greek style buildings, and maybe that passed on towards the Empire. Anyway, this looks like a very Greek style statue nonetheless. So we're probably going to see these throughout the cities as well, but I would expect they'll be the more upgraded, the more wealthy cities rather than the smaller, lower down little villages. That makes sense. And finally, we take a quick look into the architecture, the overview of it, the keeps that we've seen in the bigger cities, but looking closer into them, how they're laid out, how they're built, if they're going to be stairs up the side that you're going to be able to defend. Is this, when you're being sieged, the last defense? I'm assuming it probably is. In Warband, every now and then you'd have a last defense in the keep, which would be a really interesting and intense fight. I hope this is a one long flowing siege in Bannerlord. For example, in Warband, they would siege, take the walls, they'd siege again, take the keep. Or hopefully in this one, it's all one thing. So they take the walls and then they'd have to push into the streets, you'd have to defend the streets, and then you'd have to push into the keep and defend the keep. So hopefully that's all one long flowing thing. Whether that's possible with the amount of troops that you're going to get on the screen, who knows just yet, but I'm just fingers crossed that it's going to be a long flowing thing, because that will just keep the immersion, rather getting you in the battle, getting the intensity of the battles that we all know Mount & Blade Bannerlord will have, and then pulling you out quickly and then going back into them. We also see yurts, which will be very similar to the steppe sort of factions that they're going to have, probably in their towns and villages, but even just camps throughout the world when you set up encampments. Arenas as well, arena fighting, which we have seen gameplay of arena fighting, so this is not really something new. And of course, the insides of the taverns, which everyone knows is going to be something that we're going to spend a lot of time in taverns, and inside the Lord Chambers and Great Halls, where you're going to have big feasts and parties. But that's looking over most of the concept art for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord that was leaked a few days ago. Like I said, if you want to go and see more detail and see for it yourself, I haven't been able to cover everything in exact detail because I didn't want this video to go on for too long. 10 minutes is fine, right? But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you click the link in the description to go and to those who are credited. But until then, guys, I will see you in the next one.